Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tips. My name is Julian, and in today's episode, we're going to be continuing that series of episodes that I've been making, talking about each individual NHL team, talking about their noteworthy players, and if I think you should consider drafting each and every guy. Today's episode is going to be about the Calgary Flames. Now, the next episode alphabetically would normally have been the Buffalo Sabres, but there's been so much buzz around Calgary lately that I just wanted to put an episode out as soon as possible about the Flames, since they just traded away Monahan and signed Nazem Kadri. They're primed to have another really good season in the NHL. So now we're going to jump right into the content, but before we do, please leave a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell if you want notifications for all my preseason content. Should definitely help you guys with your fantasy drafts. All right, let's get into it, and let's start with my projected lines for the Flames this year. And on the top line, we have Huberdeau, Elias Lindholm, and Tyler Toffoli. And on the second line, we have Jacob Pelletier, Nazem Kadri, and Andrew Mangiapane, although it could just as easily be Blake Coleman on that second line instead of Pelletier. Pelletier would really have to impress in training camp to get a top 6 role. On the third line, I have Coleman, Backlund, and Dylan Dubé. And on defense, Hanifin, Rasmus, Andersson, Weegar, Tanev, Zadorov, and Shillington, which is an incredibly good defensive core. Now jumping into the highest ranked player of the video, and that is Jonathan Huberdeau, ranked number 12 on NHL's list of their top 250 fantasy players. Last year had an awesome year with 115 points in 80 games, finished second overall in point scoring in the league. He is a fantastic player. Obviously, he's not on Florida anymore. He's here on Calgary, was traded in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. And Huberdeau, I think he's going to have another really amazing season. He's one of the best players in the league overall, and he's going to have some solid line mates in Elias Lindholm and Tyler Toffoli, and he will get plenty of top power play time, and I think he's going to have a really solid year. Honestly, he could be a steal ranked at number 12. He was the 7th best fantasy player last year. Moving on to the next guy on this list, Jacob Markstrom. And Markstrom had an amazing, almost Vezina quality season last year. He was second in voting for the Vezina, was so close. And honestly, guys, he absolutely crushed it. Had 37 wins and 9 shutouts, which is absolutely insane. And I expect another really good year for Jacob Markstrom. The Flames haven't really gotten worse over the offseason. Yeah, they lost Gaudreau and Tkachuk, but they got Huberdeau, they got Kadri, and they got Weegar, who's one of the absolute best defensemen in the league. With Weegar, I expect him to be even stronger this year, so I don't expect Markstrom's numbers to dip off at all this year. Third on the list is Elias Lindholm, currently ranked 61st on NHL's list of top 250 players. And I think this is an absolute steal of a ranking. Last year, he finished as the 15th best fantasy player and the 29th best fantasy player in terms of fantasy points per game. Now at 61, that's more than double that ranking, which is absolutely crazy. Calgary's team has not gotten much worse, guys. Obviously, he's not going to be playing with Gaudreau and Tkachuk, but he's still going to be playing with Jonathan Huberdeau, who's one of the best players in the NHL. I think Lindholm's going to have another solid season and could be an absolute steal at number 61. Then I have newly signed Nazem Kadri, currently ranked at number 68 on NHL's list. Now, last year he had an incredible season with 87 points in 71 games. Prior to last year, though, he never got more than 60 points in a season. So last year was honestly a huge surprise to everybody. It was a contract year, though, so obviously he had more to play for, and obviously he did land this nice 7x7 contract with Calgary. Now, he is probably going to be playing on that second line with Mangiapane and either Pelletier or Blake Coleman. While it's not a bad line, it's not the best line in the world either. Now, Kadri managed to perform last year without the best line mates last year as well. There was a lot of injuries in Colorado, and he was still managing to perform despite all those injuries. Now, while I don't expect Kadri to have as amazing of a season as last year, I don't expect him to have a particularly bad year either. A ranking of 68 is pretty high, despite him finishing as the 42nd best fantasy player last year. He's going to have a really amazing season again, and with the change of scenery, it's just something that's a little bit risky. Will he be able to be as good as he was last year? It remains to be seen. Probably not. He'll probably fall off a little bit. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to fall off a lot. He could definitely live up to this ranking of 68. He's just not someone I'm personally going to be drafting at 68 because, first of all, center is a position that there's a lot of them and you can draft pretty good ones late in the draft. And also, there's a chance that he does not live up to that ranking of 68, just with a change of scenery and all a bunch of different factors as well. Then they have the WeGoat, MacKenzie Weegar, ranked at number 85 on their list. The dude's just such an all-around fantasy machine, and I absolutely love MacKenzie Weegar. He's one of the best defensemen, both defensively and offensively in the league, and he doesn't even get power play time generally, but still manages to put up these points. He's just absolutely amazing, and he's someone that definitely is going to be worth drafting at 85. He managed to get 44 points in 80 games with pretty much no power play time last year. Got 203 shots on goal, 156 block shots, and 179 hits. To give you an idea, he was 63rd in shots per game last year, was 35th in hits per game, and was 20th in blocks per game last year. So he's just an all-around monster, and especially in Cats League is going to help you fill out a lot of those categories, which is why he's such an amazing guy to draft in fantasy drafts. He's definitely someone that I recommend in categories leagues, and even in points-based leagues. Those stats will definitely pile up and help you give a safe floor every single night. And then Tyler Toffoli is ranked at number 134, managed to get 49 points in 74 games last year, although a lot of that was with the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, the Calgary Flames are better than the Habs, and he still managed to finish as the 157th best fantasy player last year, and gets a lot of shots on goal, so he's got a little bit of a safe floor there. But Toffoli is going to be slated to play on the top line this year. Why? Well, Tkachuk's not there anymore, so he's probably going to be that number one right winger on the team, which would be absolutely amazing for him. He's going to have such a good opportunity to put up points this year. Going to be top power play as well the whole season. I think he's going to have a really nice year. He's going to be playing with Huberdeau and Lindholm. That's a very good place to be, assuming he does play on that top line. If he does, he's going to be an amazing fantasy asset this year. Could be a real steal at 134. Then at number 147, they have Andrew Mangiapane, and I never know how to feel about that guy. Last year, his shooting percentage was so inflated, but he managed to keep it up the entire year and ended up getting 35 goals and 55 points on the year. He ended up finishing as the 91st best fantasy player, and even if his shooting percentage does go down a little bit this year, he's got Nazem Kadri as his centerman this year. Last year, he had Mikael Backlund, who's still on the team, but probably will be their third-line center this year. And with Kadri as the centerman, he's bound to have a better year because Kadri is a pretty freaking good player. So that's why I'm not worried about drafting Andrew Mangiapane in this range. Then I have Rasmus Andersson, and at number 149, it makes sense. He finished as the 125th best fantasy player last year, and he's someone that I absolutely hit the nail on the head. I told you guys to draft him because he was not even ranked in the top 250 players, was going super late in drafts, but I'm like, guys, he's going to be their number one power play guy in Calgary, and he's going to probably have a pretty good year. And guess what, guys? He had a really awesome year. 125th overall in fantasy is pretty freaking good for someone who is going so late. Obviously, this year the rankings caught up to him, and he's ranked at 149th. The one thing I'm really worried about with Rasmus Andersson, though, is that at the very, very end of the year, they started giving Noah Hanifin that top power play time. And Noah Hanifin was able to put up points despite not even being on that top power play. Noah Hanifin obviously being the next guy on this list, ranked at 185. So let's say they start the year and Rasmus Andersson is not playing on that top power play and it's Hanifin there instead. Andersson is not going to put up a lot of points if he's not on that power play, whereas Hanifin is someone that can put up points. He showed it at the end of the year without being on the top power play. So to me, Hanifin is the safer draft out of these two guys, despite him being ranked almost 40 slots later. So to me, if I'm going to draft one of these guys, it is going to be Noah Hanifin. However, Rasmus Andersson, I think, will get a top power play spot, so I don't think he's a bad draft pick either. And then I got Blake Coleman, who's actually not currently ranked in NHL's top 250 players list. And on the surface, it looks like he probably doesn't belong there. With only 33 points and 81 games last year, it's not particularly good. However, he managed to finish as the 146th best fantasy player because he gives you a safe floor night in and night out. He was 104th in the league in shots per game last year and was 57th in hits last year, which is what gives him a safe floor night in and out. So if you're in a league that counts hits, he's someone that will give you a safe floor. Might not necessarily draft him in leagues that do not have hits because it's less of a state floor with just these shots on goal. Now, Blake Coleman is currently ranked outside of the 250 best fantasy players, so he could be a real steal, especially considering that he has a very good chance of playing on that second line with Mangiapane and Kadri and definitely putting up some more points than last year because, again, last year he was playing with Mikael Backlund as a centerman. Kadri is a huge improvement, so Coleman could really have himself a nice year if he does end up playing on that second line. And then I got Jacob Pelletier, and he's a rookie, was a 2019 first-round pick of the Calgary Flames. Looked pretty good in the AHL last year, and he is expected to make the team this year. Where he ends up playing on the team remains to be seen, though. He could be playing on that second line and honestly could be in line for a pretty solid fantasy year, but could also end up playing on the third line. And if he does, I don't really see his value being that high. So it really remains to be seen how he looks in training camp. And if he looks really good, maybe I'll consider him in maybe the last round of a draft if he ends up playing in the Calgary Flames top 6. And last but not least, I have Mikael Backlund of the Calgary Flames, and last year was their second line center. But with them signing Nazem Kadri, he is now going to be their third line center, and despite him getting 39 points and being, a fringe roster player last year, he's not going to be that this year. He's going to be someone that you can pick up if Calgary ever has a really favorable schedule, but he's not someone that I particularly love this year, and that's why he is someone that I do not recommend drafting. And that's it for the video, guys. Thank you for watching all the way through. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you want notifications for all my content that I post. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.